The broken treaty captain Elena Ross stood on the bridge of the colony ship Aurora and watched the emergency transmission with growing horror. The message came from mining station Theta 7 in the Outer Rim territories. The video showed chaos and destruction. Fire spread through the corridors. People were screaming and running for escape pods. Then the transmission cut to static. Theta 7 was gone. 3,000 human miners and their families had been living on that station. Now they were all dead. Elena felt her stomach turn cold. This was not an accident. This was not a misunderstanding. This was deliberate murder. The attacking ships belonged to the Vex Collective. The Vex were an alien empire that controlled 40 star systems. They had insect-like bodies with hard shells and multiple eyes. They believed that any species weaker than themselves had no rights to territory or resources. For months, the Vex had been making threats. They claimed that humans were mining in areas that belonged to them. Earth had shown them the official star charts from the Galactic Assembly. The charts clearly proved that human mining operations were in lawful territory. The Vex did not care about laws or charts. They wanted the resources, and they decided to take them by force. Lieutenant James Park was monitoring the communications console. His hands were shaking as he reported more bad news. 2 more mining stations had gone silent. Station Theta 9 and Station Theta 12 were not responding to any calls. Long-range sensors detected debris fields where the stations used to be. The Vex were destroying everything. They were wiping out human presence in the Outer Rim systematically and without mercy. Elena immediately contacted Earth Command. The transmission took several minutes to reach Earth because of the vast distance. When the response came back, Elena recognized the face of Admiral Marcus Chen. He was the head of Earth's Space Defense Force. His expression was grim and tired. He looked like a man who had not slept in days. Chen told Elena that Earth had received all the reports. 5 mining stations destroyed. Over 15,000 civilians dead. Earth had sent urgent messages to the Galactic Assembly asking for intervention. The Assembly was supposed to maintain peace between species. They had rules against unprovoked attacks, but the Assembly had done nothing. They sent messages of concern and called for diplomatic talks. Meanwhile, humans were dying. Chen said the Vex believed humanity was weak. They thought Earth would complain but do nothing serious. The Vex had studied human history and decided that humans were slow to react. They thought they could destroy the mining operations before Earth could organize any response. Chen's voice became harder. He said the Vex had made a terrible mistake. Elena asked what Earth Command wanted her to do. Chen told her to evacuate all remaining mining stations immediately. Get every human out of the Outer Rim as fast as possible. The Aurora and other colony ships should pick up all personnel and equipment they could carry. Leave nothing behind for the Vex to capture. Elena questioned why they were abandoning the territory. Chen smiled coldly. He said they were not abandoning anything. They were clearing the area for what came next. Earth was activating the Silent Storm Protocol. Elena had heard rumors about the Silent Storm Protocol but never believed they were real. The official story was that Earth's military consisted of defense satellites and patrol ships. Everyone knew about the public fleet. It was designed to protect Earth itself and the inner colonies. But the Silent Storm Protocol was something different. It was a secret program that Earth had been building for 20 years. Since first contact with alien species, Earth's leaders had worried about exactly this situation. What would happen if hostile aliens attacked human civilians? What if the galactic community refused to help? Earth needed a way to defend itself without relying on anyone else. The Silent Storm Protocol was Earth's answer. Hidden shipyards in deep space had been constructing a military fleet, using technology that other species knew nothing about. Earth scientists had been studying alien technology for 2 decades. They had learned from every species they met. They took the best ideas and improved them. Human engineers had always been good at taking existing concepts and making them better. Now Earth had weapons and ships that could match or exceed anything the major alien empires possessed. But Earth had kept this secret. They had hidden their true strength deliberately. It was better to be underestimated. It was safer to let other species think humans were weak and backward. That way potential enemies would be careless. They would not prepare proper defenses. They would attack without caution. And that was exactly what the Vex had done. Chen explained that the Silent Storm Fleet was already deployed. 30 warships had left their hidden bases and were moving toward Vex territory. These ships used advanced stealth technology. that made them nearly invisible to standard sensors. The Vex would not see them coming until it was too late. The mission was simple and brutal. Earth would systematically destroy every Vex military installation within their empire. Every shipyard, every weapons platform, every military base would be reduced to wreckage. But Earth would not harm Vex civilians. This was not about genocide or revenge. This was about teaching a lesson that would echo across the entire galaxy. The lesson was clear and unmistakable. Attacking human civilians had consequences that no species could afford to pay. Elena felt a strange mixture of fear and satisfaction. Fear because Earth was about to start a war with a powerful alien empire. Satisfaction because finally someone was doing something. Finally, Earth was standing up and fighting back. She asked Chen how long the operation would take. Chen said it would be over in 72 hours. 3 days to completely break the Vex military machine. Elena could hardly believe it was possible. The Vex Collective had been a major power for centuries. They had vast fleets and fortified worlds. How could Earth defeat them in just 3 days? Chen seemed to read her thoughts. He said the Vex were strong but overconfident. They had not innovated in decades. Their technology was old and predictable. Their tactics were standard and inflexible. They won battles through overwhelming numbers and brute force, but humans fought differently. Humans adapted. Humans analyzed their enemies and found weaknesses. Humans struck with precision and speed. The Vex would not know what hit them until it was already over. Chen told Elena to keep her crew safe and wait for further orders. Then the transmission ended. Elena turned to her bridge crew. They were all looking at her with worried faces. They had heard everything. They knew what was coming. Elena told them to start evacuation procedures immediately. Contact every mining station still operational. Get everyone loaded onto transport ships. They had 72 hours to clear the area. After that, the outer rim would become a war zone. The crew jumped into action. Messages went out across all channels. Mining stations began emergency shutdowns. Families packed their belongings and headed for the docking bays. Transport ships arrived from all directions. The evacuation was chaotic but organized. Everyone knew this was urgent. Lives depended on moving fast. While the evacuation continued, Elena thought about what Admiral Chen had said. The Silent Storm Protocol represented something important about humanity. Humans prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. They built weapons they hoped never to use. They planned for wars they wanted to avoid. But when peace failed and innocents died, humans were ready to fight. And when humans fought, they fought to win completely and decisively. The Vex had killed 15,000 civilians expecting Earth to protest weakly. Instead, they had awakened something they did not understand. They had given Earth both justification and motivation to reveal their hidden strength. In 3 days, the Vex Empire would be broken. In 3 days, every species in the galaxy would learn a new truth about humanity. Humans did not start fights, but they always finished them. Precision and power. Admiral Marcus Chen stood in the command center of the stealth carrier Phantom. Around him, dozens of officers monitored holographic displays showing the positions of all ships in the Silent Storm fleet. 30 warships were spread across Vex territory. Each ship was invisible to enemy sensors. Each ship was moving toward its assigned target. The operation had begun exactly as planned. The Vex had no idea they were under attack. They would not realize the truth until their military infrastructure started exploding. Chen had spent 15 years developing the strategy they were using now. He had studied every major conflict in human history. He had analyzed how smaller forces defeated larger armies. Speed, surprise, and precision were the keys to victory. The Vex outnumbered Earth's fleet by at least 10 to 1. But numbers meant nothing if you could not see your enemy. Numbers meant nothing if your weapons platforms were destroyed before you could use them. Chen had designed the Silent Storm Protocol to avoid direct fleet battles. Instead, human ships would strike at the foundations of Vex military power. Destroy their ability to build new ships, eliminate their communication networks, cut their supply lines, make it impossible for them to coordinate their forces or respond effectively. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Park was Chen's tactical officer. She reported that the first wave of attacks was beginning. Human ships were reaching their targets. Chen watched the tactical display as green icons representing human vessels approached red icons representing Vex military installations. The first target was a massive shipyard in the Kelos system. This shipyard produced 70% of Vex warships. It was protected by defensive platforms and patrol ships. The Vex believed it was completely safe deep inside their territory. They were wrong. The human destroyer silencer appeared suddenly out of stealth mode. It was positioned perfectly above the shipyard. Before the Vex could react, the silencer launched a full spread of kinetic missiles. These weapons did not use explosives. Instead, they were solid projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds. When they hit the shipyard, the kinetic energy released was devastating. The missiles tore through the shipyard structure like bullets through paper. Critical support beams collapsed. Construction bays exploded. Half-finished warships broke apart and drifted into space. Within 2 minutes, the entire facility was destroyed. The silencer vanished back into stealth before the defensive platforms could even lock onto its position. Similar attacks were happening across Vex territory. In the Drac system, human ships destroyed 3 weapons manufacturing plants. In the Vorin system, they eliminated the main military communication hub. In the Tellus system, they obliterated fuel storage depots that supplied the Vex fleet. Each attack was quick, precise, and overwhelming. The Vex had no time to mount defenses. Their forces were scattered across dozens of systems. By the time they realized they were under attack, the human ships were already gone. Chen had specifically ordered that civilian areas be avoided. Human weapons struck only military targets. Not a single Vex city was damaged. Not a single civilian casualty occurred. This was important for 2 reasons. First, Chen had no desire to kill innocent beings. War was about destroying your enemy's ability to fight, not about murder. Second, limiting attacks to military targets would make Earth's position stronger when the Galactic Assembly finally got involved. Commander Park reported something interesting. The Vex were sending emergency transmissions to the Galactic Assembly. They were claiming they were victims of unprovoked human aggression. They were demanding immediate intervention. Chen smiled grimly. The Vex were learning how it felt to be attacked without warning. They were experiencing the fear and helplessness they had inflicted on human miners. Park asked if Chen was worried about the Assembly's response. Chen shook his head. He said Earth had already sent detailed reports to every Assembly member. The reports included full documentation of the Vex attacks on mining stations, video evidence of the massacres, names and faces of every human killed. Earth had also sent recordings of their requests for help and the Assembly's refusal to act. The diplomatic groundwork was already laid. Meanwhile, the Vex military was trying desperately to organize a response. Their high command ordered all available ships to converge on suspected human positions, but they had no idea where the human ships actually were. Stealth technology made the Silent Storm fleet essentially invisible. Vex sensors could not detect them until they attacked, and by then it was too late. The Vex tried changing their sensor frequencies. They tried deploying detection satellites. Nothing worked. Human engineers had designed their stealth systems specifically to counter every known detection method. The Vex were fighting blind against an enemy they could not see. On the second day of operations, Earth's forces shifted their focus. They had already destroyed most major military installations. Now they targeted the Vex fleet directly. Human ships began ambushing Vex patrol groups. A Vex squadron of 6 warships would be on routine patrol when suddenly missiles would appear from nowhere. The ships would explode before they could raise shields or return fire. The attacking human ship would disappear again into stealth. The Vex crews were terrified. They could not fight an enemy they could not detect. Fear spread through the Vex military. Crews refused orders to patrol certain sectors. Some ships deserted their posts entirely. The psychological impact was devastating. Chen received reports from intelligence officers monitoring Vex communications. The Vex leadership was in complete chaos. They were arguing among themselves about how to respond. Some wanted to negotiate with Earth immediately. Others wanted to launch a massive counterattack against Earth itself. But they had no idea where Earth's attacking ships had come from. They did not know the locations of human military bases. Any attack on Earth's home system would take weeks to organize, and by then their entire military would be destroyed. The Vex were trapped in an impossible situation. They could not defend against attacks they could not see. They could not strike back against targets they could not locate. Their only real option was surrender, but their pride made that choice difficult. Chen ordered the final phase of the operation to begin. Human ships gathered near the Vex homeworld of Vexara Prime. They remained in stealth, invisible to the massive defensive fleet protecting the planet. Then Chen sent a message directly to the Vex Supreme Council. The message was simple. It played on every screen in the Vex government buildings. Chen appeared in the hologram wearing his full uniform. His voice was calm but firm. He said Earth had spent 2 days systematically destroying Vex military power. Their shipyards were gone. Their weapons factories were destroyed. Their communication networks were disabled. Their fleet was scattered and demoralized. Earth had the capability to continue this until nothing remained of Vex military strength. But Earth was offering one chance to end this without further destruction. The terms were clear. The Vex would immediately cease all hostile actions against human territories. They would pay reparations to the families of every human killed in their attacks. They would formally apologize to Earth and the Galactic Assembly, and they would accept permanent monitoring of their military by neutral observers to ensure they never again attacked civilian populations. If the Vex agreed to these terms within 12 hours, the attacks would stop. If they refused, Earth would proceed to eliminate every remaining Vex military asset. Then Earth would bring the Vex leadership to trial before the Galactic Assembly for war crimes. Chen gave them 12 hours to decide. The Supreme Council of the Vex met in emergency session. The meeting was loud and chaotic. Some council members wanted to fight to the last ship. They said accepting these terms was humiliating. Others pointed out that they had no choice. Earth had proven they could destroy Vex military power at will. Fighting further would only lead to complete destruction. Finally, after 8 hours of debate, the council voted. They would accept Earth's terms. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. The war was over. Earth had won completely in less than 3 days. The Vex sent their formal acceptance to Admiral Chen. They agreed to all terms without trying to negotiate. They knew they had no leverage. They had attacked thinking humans were weak prey. They had discovered that humans were actually dangerous predators. Chen received the message and immediately ordered all attacks to cease. Human ships stopped their operations and withdrew to safe positions. The shooting was over, but the real work was just beginning. Earth needed to make sure the galaxy understood what had happened and why. This was not about conquest or empire building. This was about justice and deterrence. Chen sent a comprehensive report to the Galactic Assembly. The report documented everything. It showed how the Vex had attacked civilian targets. It detailed Earth's repeated requests for Assembly intervention. It explained how Earth had been forced to act alone to protect its citizens. And it demonstrated that even while defending themselves, humans had shown restraint by avoiding civilian casualties. The message to the galaxy was clear. Earth wanted peace, but Earth would protect its people. Any species considering attacking humans should remember what happened to the Vex. The new galactic order. The Galactic Assembly chamber was completely full for the first time in decades. Representatives from every member species had come to witness this historic session. They gathered to discuss what everyone was calling the Vex incident. But really, they were here to talk about humanity. 3 weeks had passed since Earth's military operation against the Vex Collective. The speed and efficiency of human victory had shocked the entire galaxy. Species that had dismissed humanity as primitive newcomers were now reconsidering everything they thought they knew. Ambassador Sarah Mitchell walked to the central speaking platform. She was Earth's chief representative to the Assembly. She had been a diplomat for 20 years and had dealt with dozens of alien species. She knew how to read the mood in the chamber. Right now, that mood was a mixture of fear, respect, and uncertainty. The aliens did not know what to expect from Earth anymore. That was actually a good position to be in. Sarah had learned that being predictable made you weak in galactic politics. Being mysterious and potentially dangerous made you strong. The assembly speaker was a being named Counselor Varn from the Thalax Unity. The Thalax looked like floating jellyfish with glowing patterns on their bodies. Varn's translation device converted his thoughts into words everyone could understand. He formally recognized Ambassador Mitchell and invited her to address the assembly. Sarah took a moment to look around at all the different species watching her. She saw beings with scales, beings with fur, beings made of crystalline structures. Each species represented a different world with its own history and culture. Many of them had been members of the assembly for centuries. Earth had only joined 5 years ago. Most species had treated humans as junior members who should be quiet and learn from their elders. That attitude was about to change permanently. Sarah began speaking in a clear, steady voice. She thanked the assembly for calling this session. She said Earth wanted to address concerns about recent events and propose changes to how the assembly operated. Several species had filed formal complaints about Earth's military action against the Vex. They claimed Earth had acted unilaterally, without assembly approval. They said Earth had used excessive force. They worried that Earth was becoming a dangerous, aggressive power. Sarah understood these concerns were not really about justice or rules. They were about fear. These species had suddenly realized that humanity possessed military capabilities that rivaled or exceeded their own. That realization made them nervous. Sarah addressed the complaints directly. She reminded the assembly that Earth had followed proper procedures. When the Vex attacked human mining stations, Earth immediately reported the attacks to the assembly. Earth requested intervention and peacekeeping forces. Earth asked the assembly to mediate and stop the violence. The assembly had done nothing. They had sent messages of concern but taken no action to protect human civilians. While the assembly debated and discussed, 15,000 humans died. Earth had waited as long as possible for the assembly to act. When it became clear that no help was coming, Earth defended itself. That was not aggression, that was survival. Ambassador Korath of the Vex Collective stood up to speak. He was one of the few Vex leaders who had kept his position after the defeat. His insect-like body seemed smaller and less threatening than before. His voice was quiet and humble. He said the Vex Collective formally apologized for attacking human territories. He admitted the attacks were wrong and violated assembly laws. The previous Vex leadership had believed they could take what they wanted through force. They had been catastrophically wrong. Korath said his government accepted full responsibility. They would pay all agreed reparations. They would submit to monitoring. They would never again threaten human interests. The apology was complete and unconditional. It had to be. The Vex had no other choice. Their military was shattered. Their economy was struggling. They needed peace desperately. Sarah nodded acknowledgement of the apology. Then she moved to her main purpose for addressing the assembly. She said the Vex situation revealed serious problems with how the assembly functioned. The current system required unanimous agreement before taking action. That meant any single species could block intervention, even when civilians were being massacred. This was unacceptable. Earth was proposing the creation of a new mutual defense charter. Any assembly member that was attacked by another species could request immediate help. A coalition of willing members would provide protection. Species that wanted to participate would contribute ships and resources. This coalition would not require unanimous approval. It would act quickly to stop aggression and protect innocent populations. Several species immediately expressed interest. The Draxian representative stood and said her people supported this proposal. The Draxians were a relatively small species that had been threatened by larger neighbors in the past. They understood what it meant to need help and not receive it. The Colonian representative also spoke in favor. The Colonians had rich mineral resources that made them targets for exploitation. A mutual defense system would give them security they currently lacked. Other smaller species added their support. They saw this as protection against the traditional major powers who had dominated the assembly for centuries. But not everyone was happy with Sarah's proposal. Ambassador Thrawn of the Kartak Dominion stood to object. The Kartak were one of the oldest and most powerful species in the assembly. Thrawn said Earth's proposal would destabilize the careful balance of power. He said it would encourage smaller species to act recklessly, knowing they had protection. He worried it would give Earth too much influence over galactic affairs. Sarah listened patiently to his objections. Then she responded calmly. She said the current balance of power had failed to protect human civilians. It had failed to stop unprovoked aggression. If maintaining the old system meant allowing massacres to go unpunished, then that system needed to change. Earth was not seeking dominance. Earth was seeking fairness. Every species deserved protection regardless of their size or age of assembly membership. The debate continued for hours. Different species presented different viewpoints. Some supported Earth's proposal enthusiastically. Others worried about the implications. A few opposed any change to existing structures. But gradually a consensus formed. The majority of species recognized that Earth was right. The assembly needed mechanisms to respond quickly to aggression. The old system of endless debate and unanimous consent was broken. Finally, Councillor Varn called for a vote. The Mutual Defense Charter was approved by 73% of member species. It was not unanimous, but it was decisive. The galaxy had just changed in a fundamental way. Sarah felt satisfied but not triumphant. This was not about Earth winning a political victory. This was about creating a safer galaxy for everyone. After the session ended, several ambassadors approached Sarah privately. They wanted to discuss bilateral defense agreements with Earth. They wanted access to human military technology. They wanted guarantees that Earth would help defend them if they were attacked. Sarah handled each conversation carefully. Earth was willing to form alliances, but on terms that served mutual interests. Earth would not become the galaxy's police force, but Earth would stand with species that respected human sovereignty and supported the new charter. One particularly interesting conversation was with Ambassador Lixara of the Sindari Federation. The Sindari controlled 15 star systems and had a powerful economy. Lixara said her government wanted to establish a formal alliance with Earth. She admitted the Sindari had initially dismissed humanity as unimportant newcomers. The Vex situation had completely changed their assessment. Lixara said the Sindari respected how Earth had fought. Earth had shown overwhelming force but also remarkable restraint. They could have massacred Vex civilians but chose not to. That combination of power and discipline was rare in the galaxy. It made Earth the kind of ally the Sindari wanted. Sarah spent the next several weeks negotiating agreements with various species. Earth's diplomatic position had been completely transformed. Before the Vex incident, humans had to work hard to get anyone to take them seriously. Now everyone wanted to talk to Earth. Everyone wanted to know what humanity thought about galactic issues. Earth had gone from being ignored to being one of the most influential voices in the Assembly. This had not happened through diplomacy alone. It had happened because Earth demonstrated capability backed by willingness to act. Words mattered in galactic politics, but actions mattered more. Admiral Chen returned to Earth as a hero. The military operation had been flawless. Not a single human ship was lost. Not a single human casualty occurred. Meanwhile, the Vex military had been completely dismantled without Earth ever fighting a traditional fleet battle. Military analysts across the galaxy were studying what Earth had done. They were trying to understand how such a new species had achieved such a decisive victory. The answer was actually simple. Humanity had learned from everyone else. They had taken the best technologies and tactics from every species they met. Then they had improved everything through human innovation and adaptability. Other species had centuries of tradition and established ways of fighting. Humans had no traditions holding them back. They could try new approaches without worrying about historical precedent. Back on Earth, people celebrated but also reflected seriously. The victory over the Vex was satisfying, but 15,000 humans had died before Earth could respond. President Jennifer Walsh addressed the global population in a broadcast. She said Earth would never again rely on others for protection. The Silent Storm Protocol had proven its value, but it needed to be expanded. Earth would continue building its military capabilities, not for conquest, but for security. Earth wanted peaceful relations with all species, but Earth would always be prepared to defend itself and its allies. Sarah Mitchell returned to Earth for consultations with the government. She met with President Walsh and the cabinet to discuss the new galactic situation. Walsh asked Sarah what she thought would happen next. Would other species try to test Earth's resolve? Would there be more conflicts? Sarah considered the question carefully. She said the galaxy had learned an important lesson from the Vex incident. Attacking humanity was expensive and dangerous. Most species would avoid conflict with Earth. But there would always be some who needed to test boundaries. Earth needed to remain strong and vigilant. The price of peace was eternal readiness. 1 year after the Vex incident, the Galactic Assembly held a ceremony to formally implement the Mutual Defense Charter. 23 species had joined as full participants. Another 15 had signed as supporting members. Earth provided the largest single contribution of ships and resources. The Charter's headquarters was established on a neutral station in the border region between multiple territories. The first commander of the Joint Defense Force was Admiral Marcus Chen. His appointment was suggested by Earth but had to be approved by all participating species. The vote was nearly unanimous. Chen had proven his competence beyond any doubt. The ceremony included representatives from every member species. They gathered to celebrate the creation of something new in galactic history. For the first time, species from across the galaxy were committing to defend each other against aggression. It was an ambitious experiment. Nobody knew if it would work long term. But everyone agreed it was better than the old system where attacks went unpunished and the weak had no protection. Sarah Mitchell gave a brief speech at the ceremony. She said 1 year ago, Earth had been forced to stand alone against aggression. Today, no species in the Charter would ever have to stand alone again. This was what civilization meant. This was what justice looked like. Not perfect, but better than what came before. Working together, they could build a galaxy where all species were safe and respected. The Vex Collective had completed paying their reparations. Their military remained small and closely monitored. They had learned their lesson thoroughly and painfully. Ambassador Korath had worked hard to rebuild relationships with other species. He knew the Vex reputation had been destroyed. It would take generations to restore trust, but he was committed to trying. Korath approached Sarah at the ceremony. He thanked her for Earth's restraint during the conflict. He said the Vex were grateful that humanity had chosen justice over vengeance. Sarah told him that building peace was always harder than waging war. She hoped the Vex would use this opportunity to become better members of the galactic community. As the ceremony ended and ambassadors began departing, Sarah stood alone for a moment looking out at the stars. She thought about how much had changed in just 1 year. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy as hopeful explorers seeking friendship and knowledge. They had encountered hostility and violence. They had been forced to fight for survival and respect. But through it all, Earth had maintained its values. Humans could be fierce when threatened, but they did not seek domination. They wanted partnership and mutual respect. The galaxy was slowly learning that humans made better friends than enemies. Species that worked with Earth prospered. Species that attacked Earth paid terrible prices. It was a simple lesson, but apparently one that needed to be taught through demonstration. Sarah smiled as she prepared to return to Earth. Humanity's journey in the galaxy was just beginning. There would be more challenges ahead, more conflicts and more opportunities, but Earth was ready. They had proven themselves capable of defending their interests while maintaining their principles. The galaxy would never again dismiss humanity as primitive or weak. Earth had earned its place among the stars through courage, skill, and determination. The future was uncertain, but it was also full of possibility, and that was exactly how humans liked it.